A teenage boy, Yama Juugo, after being exiled and disowned by his father, is seen arriving at the island by boat on an artificial island Nanaejima, the special student zone. He looks around with excitement on his face as he begins his new life on the island, and meets his landlady, Shikimaburo. She takes him to his new apartment, which he rented online, and hands over the keys, but as he enters the room, he finds a girl living there. He asks Shiki about her, who tells him that the girl is a ghost who was murdered about 10 years ago in this room. The ghostly girl introduces herself as Ryuugajou Nanana, and tells him that she was murdered in this room, but doesn't know who killed her, because they stabbed her from behind. Nanana challenges Juugo to a game, with the winner being the rightful master of the apartment. Juugo agrees and they fight fiercely all night. The next day, Juugo arrives at his new school, and it also seems he has broken his arm last night. Back in his apartment, Juugo discovers a hidden compartment in the bathroom. Inside, he finds a booklet titled Nanana Manual, written by Kanju Kasumi. The booklet contains information about Nanana and her collection, the adventure club, as well as a final request from Kasumi. Later, Juugo begins to research Nanana and her history and discovers Nanana was once a member of the Great Seven, along with his landlady, Shikimaburo, who shares some information about Nanana's past, saying Nanana explored the island and left behind a series of valuable treasures called Nanana's Collection. Suddenly, the thief group, Mitsuri, is seen stealing an item from one of the buildings. While way back from a convenience store, Juugo notices a small parachute holding a small box and a transponder. He brings it to his room, and Nanana recognizes the box contains a blue jewel called the light-up lie detector, one of Nanana's collection. Meanwhile, the members of the Mitsuri group argue about their failed heist and the missing jewel. The next morning, a young detective named Tensai and her maid assistant, Daruku, visit Juugo's room to investigate the theft of the jewel. After taking the shower, Tensai confronts Juugo, who denies stealing the jewel. Tensai shows him the proof, including security footage from the convenience store. Juugo attempts to stop the security footage, but Daruku holds him down, and that time it reveals Maid Daruku is a boy, and Tensai calls him a trap. Tensai then also unlocks Juugo's phone data, which leads Juugo to turn over the box with the missing jewel. However, the next day, Tensai is charged as the thief who stole the jewel. Later, Tensai and Daruku transfer to Juugo's school. A girl in a maid outfit approaches Juugo and takes him to Isunyuga, the president of the adventure club, who invites him to join his group. And the girl in a maid outfit is the vice president, Yu. They then visit his apartment to meet Nanana. After their leave, Nanana reveals to Juugo that the person who killed her has a dragon mark on the back of their neck. Juugo promises to help her find the killer. The next day, Yuga tests Juugo, Tensai, and Daruku with a ruin to join the club. As Juugo opens the door, Ruin's puzzle is activated. Juugo continuously attempts to use his strength and stamina to solve the puzzle. On the other hand, Tensai is able to solve it with her intelligence. All three pass the test and become official members of the adventure club. Yuga treats the three to tea brewed from the collection item, the teapot that requires no leaves, which was originally in the test Ruin's treasure chest. At the apartment, after playing one of Nanana's games, she gives Juugo a clue to finding an item from her collection, and the adventure club finds that the treasure resides in the shopping complex called Rising Building. Tensai uses her detective skills to locate the room in the complex, where the treasure is held, by seeing past the mirror. Yuga unlocks the room, and he, Juugo, and Tensai are the three tasked with retrieving the item. Upon entering the room, they find themselves in a dangerous maze of tubes. They rapidly find the danger of the maze, and Tensai almost lost her life, but is saved by Juugo, who managed to grab her hand in time. With Juugo's agility and Tensai's puzzle-solving skills, they manage to create a safe pathway to the treasure chest. Yuga then using that pathway reaches the treasure chest, and all traps are deactivated. However, Yuga opens the treasure chest. They find a cane inside it. Yuga got obsessed with it, and after obtaining the treasure for himself, he betrays Tensai and Juugo, leaving them stranded in the center of the room. While sharing a moment atop the chest, Juugo informs Tensai that he contacted the police to rescue them. 2 police officers come to help them and detain Juugo for questioning. Incidentally, the cops are from Mitsuri. Afterward, Nanana informs Juugo that Yuga has obtained the wizard's cane, which can grant any wish to its bearer. Tensai messages Juugo that Yuga plans to sell the cane to Akaku Shunjuo, so he meets her. Meanwhile, Nanana has a flashback of Kasumi leaving Nanana's place, revealing she saw her fate in the future revealing mirror. Back to the present, Tensai figures the one who meets her is one of Mitsuri members Shu. While Shu kept Tensai busy, Juugo and Yukihime made a plan to steal back the wizard's cane from Yuga. In exchange, Juugo handed Yukihime the light-up lie detector jewel. Both groups clashed, and Yuga reveals that he intended to use the cane to control Akaku and become the most powerful man on the island. During their fight, Juugo was badly injured after taking damage from Yuga's spells, but Kane's power eventually runs out. Juugo reveals that the Kane's power is limited and tells Yuga that he didn't think of the flaws, as he only assumed it was the most powerful artifact. Stunned, Yuga was about to be punched by Juugo, but was saved by his other colleague, Kagetora. Yuga's group manages to escape, only to be surrounded by an army marshaled by Tensai, operating as Akaku's messenger. Later, Yuga apologizes for what he has done, and Juugo warns Yuga not to betray them again. Back at the apartment, Tensai waits for Juugo and reveals that she knows about his relations with Mitsuri. However, she doesn't hand him over to the police as she really wants an opponent and decides to live near his room. After that, Juugo receives a call from his dad, and they discuss his selfish ideals. Furious, Juugo retorts and hangs up. Returning to his room, he reveals that he gave a phony to Yukihime. Nanana seems okay with it as she entrusts him in finding the killer for her. Yuga treats the adventure club to dinner using the funds raised from the forced sale of the wizard's cane, and recommends that they all go on an overnight trip to nearby hot springs, rumored to have a ruins. Later at Juugo's apartment, Juugo attempts to get another hint from Nanana, however she denies as it would detract from the fun of the chase. Yukihime contacts Juugo, and they meet at a nearby cafe, where he thanks her for helping him the other day against Yuga. She attempts to convince Juugo to return to Mitsuri, yet he declines and Yukihime cuts off contact. Later, Juugo discovers Tensai and other gaming with Nanana in his apartment. Shiki additionally hands Juugo the utilities bill which boasts an absurd electricity cost, and gives him 1 week, or he will be expelled. Juugo locates the guild, which offers secret jobs to supplement his low part-time income the island rules allow. He finds a lucrative delivery job to the Tsukuyomi district and accepts it. Upon arriving in Tsukuyomi district, he meets Shu, who helps guide him through the shady area to the delivery point, and then leaves him alone. In the location, Juugo meets Tetsu, who guided him into the room where he meets a girl named Yun. Yun orders him to wait in the room until Sister arrives. While Juugo is waiting, he finds an arrow among the collections. Sister, the head of the Three Skulls organization, shows up and reveals that arrow is one of the Nanana's collection, and threatens Juugo, but directs Tetsu to escort him out. Once a raid on the base breaks out. After the delivery, Juugo realizes he was never paid and must sell Nanana's games. The adventure club arrives at a hot springs town, and Juugo decides to buy the town's specialty pudding for Nanana. At the inn, Juugo is introduced to Kagetora. Juugo sees Yukihime at the hotel, but she ignores him. When everyone is shown their rooms, Juugo requests a separate room, claiming to being a loud snorer. But after the dinner, Yuga reveals the floor layout of the abandoned house containing the ruins, as Kagetora has already confirmed the special key unlocks the door. With just the floor plans, Tensai is able to locate the room of the ruins, and the club is committed to meeting in the hotel lobby at 10 a.m. The next morning, Juugo meets up with Tensai and Daruku, when they find out from an employee that Yuga has already left for the house and gotten a head start on the trial. The room with the ruins turns out to be an agility puzzle, with trapped stepping stones and a water trap below. Juugo and Kagetora attempt to clear the ruin. However, Tensai is suspicious of how quickly Juugo tackles the room, considering Kagetora is still having trouble despite his head start. Juugo clears the room and finds a stuffed cat inside the chest. The club members go to the hot springs to relax. However, the security locker where the cat was stored is now empty. The club members question the employees of the hotel, But they reach a standstill with Juugo defending Yokohama, until Tensai provides evidence that Shu disguised himself as a maid in order to steal the stuffed cat away in the laundry. Back on the train, Tensai deduces Juugo leaked the ruins location to Mitsuri for money to pay for the utilities. At Juugo's place, Nanana reveals that the stuffed cat is not part of her collection, and locks Juugo out of the room as punishment for selling the games. The specialty pudding Juugo mailed to the apartment finally arrives, and Nanana reluctantly forgives Juugo, after he promises to buy more games. The pudding box also contains a golden stake, one of Nanana's collection treasures. Juugo reveals that he plans to replace the stake with a decoy, so that Yokohama won't steal it from them, but never thought that Yugo was the one who went ahead of them. Tensai and Daruku overhear Juugo's confession. They come over for dinner, and Tensai assures him that she won't expose him. She reminds Juugo that stealing, lying, anything goes when it comes to Nanana's collection, and that they're all in it to win it. Later that night, Nanana counsels Juugo about his feelings of betrayal towards Yokohama, who he trusts most still tried to steal the collection item from him, despite the unwritten rules of the underground. Seeing Juugo cry over Yokohama's betrayal, Nanana comforts him and encourages him to try to change the situation before becoming depressed. He decides to confront Yokohama and they make a wager. If Yokohama wins, Juugo will give her the treasure. But if Juugo wins, Yokohama must apologize for stealing. During the fight, Yokohama thoroughly beats Juugo. However, he reveals that he had the real treasure all along and binds her in unbreakable chains. Yokohama finally breaks down and expresses her anger towards Juugo for leaving Mitsuri and for being selfish. Juugo releases her and chastises her for not being clear about her feelings. After their fight, Juugo and Yokohama come to an understanding and reconcile. Juugo gives her Nanana's treasure as an apologies. Yokohama then meets up with Shu and assigns him to find Sanada Fumika, an informant and former member of the Adventure Club. At the apartment, Juugo questions whether he really wants Nanana to pass on. Juugo pulling an all-nighter gaming with Nanana, Tensai, and Daruku. However, after the game session ends, Juugo feels a strange presence watching him. Later at school, a first year meets with Tensai and hands her an envelope, but Tensai appears dissatisfied and abruptly leaves class. After that, Tsujimi Tatsunishin transfers into Juugo's class to the surprise of everyone. While showing him school, Juugo sees Yun, and someone is holding her hand, so Tetsu rushes to protect her, but is stopped by Juugo, and that person was revealed to be a teacher who was warning her about her uniform. Tetsu apologizes and Yun reveals her true name is Yoshino Saki, and also attends the same school. At the Adventure Club, Kagetora is unhappy with Yuga's lack of trust in the younger students, and decides to confront him. Later that day, Juugo and Nanana get an unexpected guest on their balcony, Ikisaba Hiyo, who has come to get some information about a collection item called the Rain Bell, which allows users to rain at will. However, after learning its power, he calls it garbage, which distresses Nanana. Just then drunk Shiki shows up and chases down Ikisaba. Juugo goes out to find her and some pudding to cheer Nanana up. After finding Shiki, Juugo asks her about Ikisaba, who was Room 202's previous tenant. However, he neglected Nanana and was evicted by Shiki. Juugo returns and they talk about the collection and Nanana's rules. Nanana adheres to her rules no matter what happens, that's what she believes. In bed, Juugo struggles and worries he's just like Ikisaba. The next day, Juugo, Tatsunishin, and Saki go to the arcade after school, where they run into Ikisaba, who asks Juugo how he feels about living with Nanana. Later, Ikisaba also pays a visit to the school in Yuga. Although he just addresses Yuga with scorn for his perceived weaknesses, Yuga tasks Kagetora with following Ikisaba. In a flashback, Yuga faces Ikisaba for putting a fellow club member's life in danger. However, Ikisaba said the search is a competition with no rules. Back to the present day, Juugo meets up with Yumeji, Tetsu, and Saki at the South Red Mall for a fun trip. They are trailed by Ikisaba, who, thus, is followed by Kagetora. While they are having fun, Kagetora gets distracted and loses track of Ikisaba. He manages to relocate him, but Ikisaba disappears in the shadows and reappears in front of Kagetora. Kagetora attempts to run, however Ikisaba some way or another tracks him down any place he goes. Ikisaba manages to subdue Kagetora and sends him to the hospital. Meanwhile, after the trip to South Red Mall, Saki and Tetsu return to their dorms, going their separate ways. On her way back, Saki is addressed by Ikisaba, who questions her, Although Saki has no recollection of anything. Tetsu arrives and stops Ikisaba, who discovers they are part of three skulls, meaning Kurosu Sansa is involved, upsetting Ikisaba. Ikisaba stops fighting and flees when Saki calls cops. The next day, Tetsu informs Juugo of the attack and Sansa's desire to protect Saki. Juugo asks Yuja about Ikisaba, and Yuga details his past with the club. Yuga pledges to help Juugo if he attempts to face off with Ikisaba. Tensai and Daruku finally return to school, and reveal they were investigating a missing person job, that of Yoshino Saki. She discovered that when Saki vanished, she was investigating a building for a secret job posted by Ikisaba. Adventure Club decides to clear the ruins Saki was investigating to stop Ikisaba from further targeting Saki. Juugo begs Nanana for a clue. She relents and gives a hint, on the condition that Juugo never uses the collection treasure's power himself. Next day, at South Red Mall, by using Nanana's hint, Adventure Club locates several inscriptions and pinpoints the entrance to the ruins. While Juugo manages to steal a special electromagnetic key from the security office. The entrance they find is in a public location, so they decide to return after the mall closes to clear it. After the mall closes, everyone meets again and Juugo, Tensai, Yuga, and Yuo enter the ruins with Daruku and the injured Kagetora on watch outside. As they open the door just like before, trap has been activated. As with the previous trials, Juugo sets off spike traps, while trying to brute force the room, but Tensai eventually solves the puzzle to find the safe path down. Juugo and Yuga find a bloodied bag and become worried about the girls, startling Tensai, who slips and falls. Meanwhile, outside the ruin, Kagetora senses Ikisaba and hides, allowing him to enter the ruins. Inside the ruin, Tensai lands safely, too shaken up to continue. Juugo carries her and sprints the rest of the way, ignoring traps. Everyone reaches the bottom and finds the chest, but before they can solve the puzzle lock, they are stopped by Ikisaba. He admits to using Saki to test the ruins, and threatens not to allow them to leave for getting in his way. Juugo, Yuo, and Yuga fight Ikisaba, who uses his Shadofen's boots to dodge and strike. Yuga reveals that his mimic glasses are part of Nanana's collection and allow him to copy techniques he sees. Tensai solves the puzzle and goads Ikisaba, who punches her but gets tasered in return, neutering his ability to use Shadofens. Juugo punches him, and Yuga activates the mimic glasses' secret ability to read minds. With that, Juugo is able to hit him every time he appears out of the shadows. And finally, with Yuo's help, they manage to corner Ikisaba and force him to use his trump card. Ikisaba uses the Whisper of the Death God to collapse one of Juugo's lungs and break his right arm. Tensai intervened, firing a rubber bullet, and offers a proposal allowing everyone to depart separately, and convinced Ikisaba to leave, also able to convince Ikisaba to leave and stay away from Saki, revealing that she had figured out the power of Ikisaba's Nanana Collection treasure. As Ikisaba leaves, it turns out, the Whisper only imposes suggestions, and Juugo's injuries were just in his mind, causing the body to experience pain. Later, Yuga talks to Ikisaba about his resolve to become the #1 treasure hunter on the island. Meanwhile, Tensai reveals to Juugo that she was bluffing about knowing the power of the collection item. The puzzle lock on the chest turned out to be just for decoration, and the chest was unlocked the whole time. Tensai brings the item to Nanana, who asks her why Juugo was hiding his reasons. Tensai reveals that they fought with Ikisaba, and Nanana challenges her to a bet. Later, Tensai meets with Juugo and offers him the treasure, claiming it can allow the user to see past events. But Juugo remembers his promise to Nanana and refuses. She then reveals that she lied to bait Juugo into breaking his promise with Nanana. Back at the apartment, Juugo resolves to find out exactly what Nanana wants, but she tells him to find out by himself, so he challenges her to another fight. Their battle wakes Shiki, who then eavesdrops on them through the door. While Nanana subdues Juugo, he refuses to give up, and his resolve convinces Nanana to give up and tell him what she truly wants. She reveals that she wants to find and kill her killer, but that won't make her move on, as remaining would permit her to watch the world, and Juugo, somewhat longer. In the end, Yuga stares at Saki's bloodstained ID from the bag they found, and Saki enters another ruins. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. If you have any suggestions or questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Until next time, take care.